I'm about to share with you a behind the scenes interview that we did with the Alex Hormozi right when he launched his book, before he started to blow up all over the internet. So if you've wanted to ever hear from Alex before he became famous on the internet, this is going to be your chance. And the crazy part about this is that I'm giving you guys an inside look to an interview that I did inside of my private mastermind, which people invest tens of thousands of dollars to access. So you guys are about to get this 100% for free. And the best part about this interview is that I ask Alex some challenging questions that I don't believe he's been ever asked anywhere before. For example, I asked him the famous Peter Thiel question, which is, what is something that you believe in that most people don't agree with you on? And the answer was really, really interesting. So if you want to hear from Alex before he blew up and get an inside sneak peek on our private mastermind, which again is tens of thousands of dollars, then keep watching. And with that in mind, let's dive into the interview.
First things first, I'm going to skip the shampoo question. The second question, someone asked what shampoo regimen you follow. No. Someone else asked, what is something that you truly believe in that many people would disagree with you about?
You asked me Peter Thiel's question?
Yeah.
I think that people should pick their spouses based like a business partner and not based on romance.
Fascinating. Do you want to go deeper?
Probably the most important decision that you make in your life is who you choose to have as your spouse or partner. You think about like how many times, who here has had more than one business since they started their entrepreneurial career? Can you get a hand? Right. And so for some reason, as entrepreneurs, we're so obsessed with this decision, and yet we approach dating or lifetime partnership kind of haphazardly without process. And so it is like, it has a 0.71 correlation to your subjective well-being, or how happy you perceive yourself to be is based on the strength of your relationship with your significant other. No, it has nothing to do with your business success or how much money you make. And so most of us are here for freedom, or at least, to feel better in a certain way. And so to let that one go by chance and just say, well, I guess we've been together for a few years, let's get hitched, which is how I feel a lot of people get married. And sometimes in the entrepreneur space, we don't think about how we are going to grow as entrepreneurs, and in many ways leave the people that we are dating behind, because they are not exposed to the same stimuli as we are. And so I think most systems will adapt to whatever stimulus is put in front of it. And if we're consistently getting exposed to different stimuli, then we're going to grow apart inevitably. And so the idea is like, how can I find somebody who has an aligned mission and aligned values, so they want to go where I want to go, and they want to get there the way I want to get there, so that at the onset we have that shared path. So that was something that I did not do for the earlier part of my romantic dating. And then as I got older, I realized that it felt like every relationship that I had was always pulling away at what I wanted to do with my life. Everything was always a trade-off. It was, hey, you can work, but after that, we need to go to my friend's place. After that, hey, let's go do this thing that I don't care about, right? And the thing is like, I think it's important to have compromises, but if your entire life is a compromise, then you might be trading the wrong things, and you don't necessarily have to make those trades. And so I think that for a lot of people, for those of you, because I think it seems like it's a somewhat younger crowd, if you can take pause for a second, like my wife and I, when we met, we did not have like a romantic chemistry. And when I ended up proposing to her, it was actually a proposition. It was a proposition in the truest sense of the word. It was not a roses and candles. I said, you're Persian, I'm Persian. You like fitness, I like fitness. You like making money in business, and so do I. And I believe in your character, and we have aligned ethics and values. I think it makes a lot of sense for us to get married. What would you think? And she said, yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense. And I was like, all right, then I guess we should get you a ring. And so then we went to the store and got her a ring, and came back 45 minutes later. And I was like, all right, well, I guess we should get married then. And she was like, yeah, I think so. So I called up a church, and we went there 4 days later and got married in the back of the church.
Does that sound fair, Alex? Was that the
Fair
closing question?
Would you be opposed to spending the rest of your life with me? She said no to say yes. She said, no, I'm not opposed to it. And I was like, fair enough. And I think that the reason that I've had disproportionate levels of success faster, I think, than most people, is because I've had a tremendous level of support from my wife. And my businesses, I was decent at business. I had 6 gyms when I was 26 or 27. on my own, but I didn't start making what most people would consider tremendous amounts of money until I had her support. And I think that you need to have that dynamic very clearly formed and just like a business, clear divisions of labor, clear roles, clear responsibilities, and honestly, clear agreements of like, this is what I will do, this is what you will do, this is what's expected. And then you fulfill those agreements. And I think a lot of people couldn't even say that to their partner right now. And I think that's a shame.
Yanko, thank you so much for asking that question. What a really powerful question to start with. Guys, if you love that answer, drop a 1. I'm freaking so excited to have Alex on. I think that's part of what makes you, man. Like your ability to see the world just a little bit differently and live it in your way. So next up, Jan asked, why do people think so small? And let's shift the question a little bit. Alex, do you feel like you think small for yourself? Do you feel like you fall into that or no?
I think everything's relative. You know, if you go to somebody in Sri Lanka and tell them what your guys' goals are, they would think that you're the richest man in Babylon. If you go to, you know, a billionaire and tell them what your goals are, they would tell you that you're, why bother, right? But I think that as much as we can look back on our old goals, because I think to myself, like, what if I had the brain or mind that I have now? I think you earn those steps. You know what I mean? I think you earn that perspective. And I mean, there's definitely a big degree of believing yourself, but then there's also the equal side of it of being delusional. And I think success lies in the balance of those. Because if you have too much delusion, not based in reality, you're not going to achieve, and you're just going to say, I'm going to be a billionaire, when you haven't even made 100 grand, right? On the flip side, if you are so based in reality, you're only going to look at the people who are around you. And so I think that, in my opinion, for me, the things that have been most valuable for increasing my beliefs. So, I mean, if anybody's followed any of my stuff, like, I believe that there's 3 things at every level of entrepreneurship that you have to renew, right? You have to renew the skills, the traits, and the beliefs. And so basically at every level, and this actually works at an employee level too, if you were limited, so right now, it's like everyone here, so this is me talking to you. If your business has stayed at the same level for 6 months, a year, whatever, right? Then rather than saying, I am stuck, simply asking better questions will usually allow you to have better answers, right? If we ask stupid questions, we get stupid answers. And so I think clarity of thought is so important, because then it makes answering the questions easier. And so if you ask yourself, and this is an easier way to do it, people who are ahead of me in my space, people who you probably may think are your competitors, who may be making more money than you, and you may be upset by that, but don't let your emotions get in the way, because they're better than you. And so you have to figure out why they're better than you. And so the idea is, do they have a skill that I lack? Do they have character traits that I lack? Or do they have beliefs about the world that are different than me? All right, so if you're good with it, Joel, I'll explain an example of each of those.
Yeah, of course.
So
you can use me as a guinea pig if you'd like.
So here's a simple example. Let's say you have the skills to market, right? So you have the skills of marketing and sales, and you believe that you can achieve more, right? But you're still stuck, right? If that's you or many entrepreneurs, oftentimes they lack the character traits of being persistent. They lack the character traits of focus. And so they have those skills, but they're applying them to, hey, I have to see if this niche or this niche will be better. I'm going to try them both out and see which one works. Maybe that sounds familiar to somebody on here, right? When in reality, either niche would work, but both will not, because you cannot focus. And that is a character trait deficiency, not a skill deficiency or belief deficiency. A different example is, I had a friend of mine who had a fitness app. He was a CrossFit Games competitor. He got pretty high up. He was like 4th. And his app was pretty good. He was doing like $20,000 a month, but he didn't promote it at all because he was ashamed that he wasn't the CrossFit champion. He didn't think he deserved to promote it because he wasn't number 1. And so finally, he got enough positive feedback from the app that he said, I guess I can start promoting it. And within months, he was doing $100,000 a month. The product was there. He had the character traits of work ethic, right? So he had the skills of creating the product. He had the character traits, but he just didn't believe it, right? So we had to change his belief about the world, and then he got the outcome, right? And so those are an example of the traits and the beliefs. The simplest one, in my opinion, is fixing skill deficiencies, right? So for example, if right now you're like, hey man, I can't, so this is a common one probably for a lot of your audience. Hey, I can't find a good salesman. No one can sell like me. By the way, terrible belief about the world. But if that was something that you said, for example, then if you can state your problem as a deficiency, then it's much easier to solve. So you say, I don't know how to find a good salesperson. So then what I should be focused on is the skill of recruiting salespeople. And once you find good salespeople, it's like, well, then I lack the skill of managing and training good salespeople. And so once you have a managed and trained good salesperson, then you might be like, hey man, I don't know how to scale a sales team. Well, then you start reading books on how to manage and scale a sales team, and how to have a pipeline of salesmen, and have a recruitment process, a farm process that builds a sales team, right? And how do you incentivize them as a team? How do you manage them as a team, right? Because that is yet another skill that you lack. And so if you think about the problems that you're experiencing, or you're hitting a plateau, you have to, at least for me, I think, is there a skill deficiency that I have? Is it a trait that I lack? Or is it a belief about the world? And so for me personally, when I had my kind of first explosion, we went from 3 million in profit to 17 million in profit between 2 years, which is pretty crazy, right? That wasn't revenue, that was profit. This was 3 or 4 years ago. The reason that I had that unlocking was because I had a mentor tell me, he said, hey man, you have a level 10 skill set and a level 2 opportunity. He said, you shouldn't be running gyms. You should be showing people how to run gyms the way you run them. And for me, that was a belief that changed. I had the traits because I had the work ethic, I had the dedication, I had the focus, I had the skills. I was already running a 6-person sales team at the time, and we were already doing, 50 sales a day. So I was used to high volume sales. I just had to switch my vehicle. So that was a belief change. And so I think I was able to explode so quickly because I had so much operational experience between 6 locations. And so people were like, how did it happen so quickly? It was because I think the rungs of the ladder, which is how I visualize this, is you have your beliefs as one vertical, you have your traits as one vertical, and then you have the skills at each rung, right? If you don't have any of those 3 at the next level, you can't move up, right? And so I had 2 parts of my ladder super high up built, but my beliefs weren't there, which is why if you've heard any of my stuff, I focus so much on the beliefs, because for me, they were the things that really made such a big difference in my life. And so once I was able to grab on, that was like 6 levels of belief up that I was able to level up almost overnight. And it was because of that. There was a number of other things, but that was one of the big ones.
That's powerful, man. I feel like I'm sure you had a similar belief change now going on to acquisitions.com, right?
Yeah.
Of like,
yes.
Same kind of process, just at a different level. Guys, this is what Alex is saying. Like he practices what he preaches. Like, for example, we were out to dinner together, and you told me to change the story that I was telling myself around a certain belief. Like now I don't say that ever. I don't identify with that at all. And then things just shift, things just open up. So, all right, next question. Guys, can we just like show Alex some love? Drop some ones.
I'm loving this.
Questions.
Like round of applause.
Thanks,
this guy's a philosopher of business and life, which brings me to my next question. We figured we'd ask you some difficult questions. What's your philosophy on death?
Actually, I think I have a fairly simple philosophy on it. So I think everyone here has been dead. So I feel like I have experience firsthand in saying this, because all of us were not alive at some point. We just say we weren't alive rather than saying we were dead. But if you change the word, it becomes pretty simple, right? So we were dead before we were alive. And I know that for me, my experience of being dead before I was alive was not that bad. And so I think that my experience of being dead will return to be what it was when I wasn't alive. That's my view. I know that a lot of people probably disagree with that. And that's, my intention is not to trigger anyone. That's just been, that is my perception of the world.
How does that allow you to operate in business differently, or does it not even affect you at all?
That's a great follow-up question. It's absolutely been one of the things that has helped me most in business. So a lot of times I think that as entrepreneurs, like we're exposed to different levels of stress, or rather perceived stress, because it's really just stimulus, right? And then we choose to become stressed about it based on the stories that we tell ourselves about what this stimulus means, right? Our ad account got shut down. That is a stimulus. We don't need to be stressed, but we choose to be stressed, right? And so if we tell a different story, or realize that in 100 generations, no one's going to remember who you are and your bloodline's going to disappear because it's going to be married through 100 times, then all of a sudden things matter less, right? And I can tell you that my genuine first response to any stressor is like, my internal dialogue is immediately, when we die, nothing happens. And for some people that's very frightening and whatever, but for me, it's very calming. And so if something crazy happens, like, hey, no matter what, when I die, nothing's going to happen. They're going to throw dirt on my face and then it's going to be over, right? Game's up, out of coins. And so for me, that helps me focus and make more reasonable and rational decisions, which I think most of us, all we can really ask for is to be able to make decisions well, and try and limit to the best of our abilities the things that will detract from our decision-making process.
That's powerful, man. That's really powerful. Are you enjoying these questions? I'm trying to give you questions you normally don't get. I don't know.
These are definitely unique for sure. We can talk about making money if you guys want, but I'm good with that.
No. I like this. Like, for example, Henry asked, why'd you pivot your model from paid ads to cold outbound? But like, you just did a YouTube video on that. So I was just going to tell him to go check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about it if you guys want. I'll give you a 2-minute answer. All right.
Okay, cool.
So when I look at, so there's 6 ways of acquiring customers, right? Paid, earned, owned media. Hopefully you guys are familiar with those 3. And then you have manual outbound, affiliates, and referrals. When I look at the biggest companies in the world, almost all of them unequivocally are focused on manual outbound, affiliates, and referrals as their primary ways of acquiring customers, with the exception of consumer products, right? Those are but then when that happens, you really become a media company, right? In conjunction with exceptional product that has strong word of mouth. And so for us, especially in the B2B space, many that I see, especially people who are starting out, function as though they are a traffic business rather than a service business. If you're catering to a niche, you're going to have a very strong, I'll rewind real quick. So of the 6 ways of getting customers, 5 of them are linear in nature, meaning you have a fixed ratio. You get 5 to 1, you get 10 to 1, right? For every dollar, every increment, you get a set or fixed increment back. It diminishes as you scale, but you have an increment that is somewhat fixed, right? With one exception. Word of mouth referrals is quadratic. 1 person tells 2 people, 2 people tell 4 people, 4 people tell 8 people. And what most people don't realize is that quadratic expansion is happening no matter what every day. It's just whether or not that quadratic expansion is hindering your business and is acting against you, or whether that quadratic expansion is happening for you. So the reason we made $36 for every dollar of ad spend that we spent is because we had so much expansion through that one channel that we were able to make so much money back. And in that first year that I was referencing, we made 100 to 1 return on our advertising. And it was because we focused on some of the other things. And as you know what, I'll even give this as an example. So did anybody hear of this book before I got on the call today? Anybody see like their newsfeed and stuff?
Most people probably got it already.
Okay, maybe. The point is that this book was somewhat a test of what I'm trying to do now, which is I wanted to see if I could make a product that was good enough that people would market it for me, and who would not need affiliate commissions, but would tell their audience about it because of the intrinsic value that it would provide on their behalf. Force
them to buy it, you know.
And so right now, this book sells 1,000 copies a day. And so if you guys are familiar with like free plus shipping funnels, 1,000 copies a day is a significant amount of copies, right? And that's all done with no advertising. And so when people are looking, like now when I'm looking at the businesses that I want to acquire, I'm looking at how much oomph am I going to get, because the compounding interest comes from the one-time investment of the product. How good can we make our service? How good can we make our product? And most people spend all their time on the promotion. And many of you may have already heard this, but you still don't do it because it's simple, not easy. The amount of extra time it takes to go from good book to great book, and the amount of extra time it goes from great book to remarkable book, remark worthy, shareable, because it is so valuable, is vastly different. But from a one-time investment, I now can yield compounding returns. And when I look at the people who make significantly more money than me, they don't do anything that has linear exchanges. They're like, why would I want to run a marketing campaign? Because then I'm going to have to do it again next month. It'd be so much easier to just get a few customers to get it, enjoy it, and then just let them go do all the work for me. And so here's a question that'll hopefully mindfuck a couple people. So let's say that I was Joel Kaplan, God of marketing, right? And I forbid you some way through my marketing powers, right? I stop you from acquiring any more customers than you currently have. All right. So think about that for a second. So everybody, your client roster is all you have. What would your client experience and your product need to look like in order for referrals from those customers to be the only way for you to grow? What would the client experience need to look like for only your customers to bring you more customers is the only way for your company to grow? You probably think about it differently, right? Is there anything different than what you're currently providing right now if that was the only way you could get new customers?
Alex, do you want to come coach?
And the thing is if you fix that, And the thing is, if you fix that, right, you'll get the infinite returns on your advertising, because then you won't need to spend that much money acquiring customers, because every customer comes preloaded with 10 other customers in them, right? And so if you fix the product, then all the marketing efforts you put in yield those crazy returns. But everyone gets it backwards. They think that if they learn to promote, that's how they're going to make money. You can make a little bit of money learning how to promote, but you make a fortune learning how to make a product. So you need to have just enough promotional experience to get it out there. And then after that, the product should be able to do most of the work. And that's where all the profit comes from, because your cost of acquisition is zero.
Alex, can I ask a devil's advocate kind of question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you feel like it's easier to be in that space of long-term and being able to create something so good that it promotes itself after going through the experience of learning how to promote, of learning how to put yourself out there, of kind of forcing the momentum to happen as opposed to letting it happen naturally? Like it's almost like I was thinking about your book, and I'm like, of course it's being of course it's blowing up, but that's also not your first book, and it's not the first thing you've ever written. It's probably you've written so many thousands of words on copy, on ads that have seen, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know if you
totally. So here's how the process is supposed to work. So the process is supposed to work is that you learn enough promotion to fix your product and makes your product exceptional. And so here's a thought experiment. Imagine you made, and this is the subject of the book, right? Imagine you made an offer that was so good no one could say no. Let's say you said, I'm going to market for you for free, and if I don't make you money, I'll pay you $1,000. Just for example, all right? Just crazy. You probably wouldn't have a lot of difficulty getting customers, right? Of course not. And so the question is, on the other hand, you've got what most people do, which is pay me, maybe get results, maybe you don't. Either way, you'll pay me, and I don't really give a shit, right? And of course, it's not you guys, it's your competitors, right? But you get the idea, right? And so if this is the extreme where everyone says yes, and this is the extreme where it's very hard to sell, how can I make this my offer? Because a lot of people would say, well, shit, I'm never going to make any money. Well, you're only not going to make any money if you don't provide any value. If you provide the value, then the business will explode, right? But if you don't know how to provide enough value yet, this will give you enough flow to fix the client experience, to fix the product, so that you get to the point where eventually you have word of mouth referrals that are actually kicking in and might be the majority of your business. And then you go back and you jack the promotion. But most people start making some sales and then just jack the promotion as their way of making money, when the reality is that's not how you're going to make a fortune. You'll be able to pay yourself. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's plenty of marketers out there who make decent money. And it just also depends on what your definition of decent money is. You know what I mean? But the way the real players play is they market enough to figure out product market fit, right? Do people want what I have? And is the thing good enough that people stay and continue to pay?
But they do start with promo.
Yes.
Cool.
I said you have to promote enough, and then you fix the product, and then you go back to the promotion, and you jack the shit out of it.
It's like what we
now
say
you have
is like
two huge things working for you.
Like what we say is you need clients to get client results, right? You can't magically have an amazing product that serves your clients and solves all problems if you don't have any clients to be able to try or test that product or service with.
100%. But most people think that testing process is where they're going to make their money. That is how they act.
Powerful stuff. I think let's keep going. Let's see what else we got. Guys, these are some great questions. Whoever's dropping
Pick whichever one you want.
Let's see. All right. Billy asked, if you were to start a similar business all over again and already had the foundations, let's say doing around 50 to 100K per month, how would you grow it to $1 million a month and beyond as fast as possible?
You don't ask the question, how do I do it as fast as possible? Step one. I actually had an acquisition.com company who got through 4 or 5 stages of our acquisition process. And the founder came to me and said, how can you guarantee that I'm gonna get to $1 million a month in 6 months? And I said, you're out, sorry. He's like, what? I thought, what? And I was like, you're out, man. Because if you think that way, you'll never get there. And so-
yeah, one of the things that stuck with me from our convo is like, Alex does an amazing job at taking a time horizon and really stretching it out. So instead of like, how do I hit this goal by the end of the year? It's like, well, what if I could hit it in 10 years?
Why do you care? Why does it matter? Why do I have to hit it by like what is going to change, right? It's like you're trying to, anyways. So in terms of the actual, what has to happen with the business is the business has to be better than it currently is, so that it provides more value and then you're compensated in exchange. Tactically, usually getting to about $300,000 a month just comes from promotions, right? The increase from $300,000 to $1 million a month comes from an increase in lifetime gross profit. This is again me making broad generalizations specific to agencies that are probably selling. This is me talking to this audience. I'm not saying every business, but for most people who are in this audience, to getting from $300,000 to $1 million a month comes from increasing lifetime gross profit per customer. And you can do that a number of ways, right? You can do that because you decrease your churn and you stop losing customers, right? Simplest way of doing it. Because here's the $100,000 a month guy.
Billy.
Where is Billy? Billy Wilson?
Yeah, he's right next to me on Zoom.
Billy, can I unmute? Can he unmute? All right.
Yeah, of course.
Billy, how many clients do you sign up a month right now?
It varies rounds between 6 and 8.
Okay, cool. That's fine. We'll use 7. All right. Actually, 8's a better number for multiplication, so we'll use 8. All right. So you eight clients a month. What's the average client pay per month?
$2,500.
Okay, $2,500. So let's see here.
I think it works out to like 16 months to get to 200,000. So
you have a 5-month LTV, right, per customer currently, right? Because it's 2,500. If you're capped at 100K a month, it means you can't go beyond that because you're losing the amount that you're gaining. So you got 8 people who are leaving, 8 people who are coming. Is that about right?
Our churn's about 6%.
Okay.
So that's not where we're capped right now. That's what we're not really stuck there, like progressively growing, but growing pretty slow.
Yeah. Okay. So I think our biggest problem, just to make sure we're on the same page, is probably like a fluctuation within sales right now. And so we can hit 6 to 8, and then we'll hit a period where it will just like tank. And then we can go like a week or two with like 1 sale or so. And then yeah.
So if we were to phrase this as a problem that needed to be solved, so this is just me executing what I was saying earlier with the skills, beliefs, and trait framework. So it's, how do I make more consistent sales, right? And so obviously the simplest and best way, if you want to make a fortune, right, Billy, this is me just talking to you because I know you commented on my YouTube. So this is showing some Billy Wilson love. If you want to make a fortune, you have to figure out how to not lose 50% of your customers every year. Like that's what you have to figure out, because you're just always going to be running in this uphill terrain. It's just very difficult to make money when you're losing half your customers, right? Because the only way to get there is to increase acquisition. And then if you're in a niche, it means you're going to burn through the marketplace eventually. And then, so if we're looking and we're stretching this, again, we're stretching the time horizon. The question is like, how do we figure out how we can not lose customers? Do we need to change the customer? Or do we need to change the fulfillment? It could be either of those things, right? That's the real, right? But if you want the simple answer of like, yes, I want to get to $1 million a month, you could get there. I don't know how long you'd sustain it, because eventually you would burn through, right? But yeah, you would increase your acquisition. And so are you getting mostly through paid ads right now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm guessing that when you spend more on paid ads, all of a sudden the ROI goes down, and then that's why you can't scale. Does that sound right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. And so that's where I think that there's that kind of concurrent advertising campaign that might be happening against you. I'm not saying this is not me casting stones. I'm just trying to help. And so you will get more scale from your ads if you have more positive word of mouth, like in a real way, especially if you're in a niche, right? But yes, the simple answer is do 10 times more than what you're doing right now, or get your people to stay 3 times as long. You know what I mean? Because when you do that, then all of a sudden your back end profit starts going like nuts. And then the cost of acquisition that right now seems unaffordable to you becomes affordable again.
100% agree.
Right? So like the lifetime gross profit per customer for me is $28,500. The average cost of acquiring most small business owners in a niche is between $2,000 and $3,000 in ad spend. If you include the marketing team and all the other things, it might be closer to $4,000, right? And that's at scale, right? Maybe $5,000. All right. And so right now, if it costs you $5,000 to get a customer and your LTV, and this is your lifetime revenue is $12,500, but then you have the cost of fulfillment, et cetera. So you're already at $7,500 after you take your cost of acquisition out. And then you have whatever is left in terms of fulfillment, right? And so then there's just not a lot left over, right? It's not, and no one makes a fortune on 2 to 1 and 3 to 1. Like you make a fortune on 20 to 1, 30 to 1. Like that's where you make like the money. And so for me, if you guys want a belief that you can borrow, for anyone who's on here, if you find this interesting, like I won't really try and scale a business until I'm at least at 20 to 1. I'm just sharing my worldview. You can do with it what you want. But I want to keep fixing what I'm selling and what I'm providing in order to get there. And then once I'm there, then I know that I have the lifetime gross profit to support an aggressive acquisition process.
That's actually a really good point. I find that really funny because I feel like my biggest strength is product. I'm not the best natural sales guy, but I think I see other people and like, maybe it's like that social media aspect that you see this guy, you know, they just say they get to $1 million a month in 12 months or whatever. And because of that, I think I've been focusing too much on that and trying to grow fast and focusing on something that's not even my strength, when the other way actually ends up working better, from what you're telling me at least.
And so what if he makes $1 million? How does that affect you?
It doesn't exactly. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't do anything. And like, again, and what people like, I can't tell you, there's this lady who reached out to me and she's like, hey, Alex, I'm catching up to you. I'm doing $1 million a month now. And then for some reason she asked me for help for something. I said, send me a screenshot of your financials. And so she sent me her financials and she was doing $300,000 a month in cash collected and $1 million a month in contract revenue, but never actually collected and never got above $300,000 a month in cash collected. But she's marketing herself as doing $1 million a month every single month that she never has. She's doing like $3 or $4 million a year. Right. And so the thing is like, yeah, well, it really depends on how if she says contract collected, yes, she should say that. But point is, it just doesn't affect you, right? Like it literally never affects you. And this is a hack for anybody who's curious. Go to your newsfeed and hide all of your competitors so you stop seeing their ads. I don't see anyone's ads. People are like, how are you responding to other people's? I'm like, I'm not. I have no idea what they're saying. This is not helpful. It makes you feel terrible when you see other people's ads. So why look at them? It ruins your fucking day. So yes, if you look at the guy, you can still always learn from somebody who's ahead of you, right? And so that person might be better at sales. You can probably learn from them about the sales process. And if you combine that with your better product, then you'll make more money than they are. And then they'll ask, what do I need to learn from Billy? Which is how the process, I believe, should work. But in the marketing space, we are promotion heavy, by and large, because we're promoters, right? But the guys who make the most money are the ones who have good product.
Alex, here's a good question from Zachary.
Yeah.
What's your verdict on doing work, or what are your thoughts on doing work that you find fulfilling versus doing work for the sake of money? And I know that, well, I'll let you answer it. What? Why are you laughing?
Yeah. No, because I just had a long conversation with a friend of mine who just sold his company for 180 million. And I asked him the same question. I said, how do you create and destroy meaning in work? And he said, he just paused and looked at me and he was like, why do you think work needs to be meaningful? And then, right. And then I asked him and I was like, well, then how do you, create meaning in life? And he was like, why do you think life needs to be meaningful? And I was like, all right, cool. Reset.
Nihilist philosophy over here.
I do have one question though to that point. So this is interesting. What about all the brands who have shit products but have the market share, who are making the most money? Like McDonald's has a shit product.
But they don't have a shit product, dude. They don't have a shit product.
Well,
the product rides incredibly fast. It's very tasty. It's incredibly affordable. It's consistent as fuck across every single marketplace. They have a drive-through that's available 24/7. Like, how is it a shitty product?
Okay, I see what you're saying. And maybe that's like
you don't want to eat it, but it doesn't mean that the vast majority of people, the population, values the product, clearly.
Sure. But I think there are definitely examples of brands in different niches where there are people who have the market share who don't have the best product. They might, so maybe they don't have a shit product, but they definitely don't have the best product. And so they still have the market share.
So in the beginning, I said, with the exception of consumer products. But but in this audience, if we're going B2B, high ticket services, which I'm pretty sure, Joel, that's what everyone's here is doing, right?
Yes.
Guys who are going to make the most money are the ones who provide the most results, right? And really, results is second to perceived results, which is what do they think they're achieving? Like you might be like, this guy made 10 to 1, but if he doesn't perceive that value, he's not going to value it.
Could you elaborate on the exception for consumer products?
Yeah. So like, let's say you've got a meme t-shirt, right? Something like that might be a traffic arbitrage move, right? Or you're selling nutraceuticals, right? And you've got a massive affiliate base. And it really, you've got 16 upsells for all the different bundles. And it's just traffic arbitrage. That's when those become media companies. They're not really product companies, they're media companies. But again, that company would be 10 times the size if the product is truly exceptional. Because I think it's this, if you talk to 10 different billionaire entrepreneurs, you'll get 10 different answers about how to make money. And it's usually going to be based on the thing that they're naturally good at, right? So there's going to be natural promoters, there's going to be natural product people, like different capital allocators, like there's different ways of winning, right? And so they're all necessary. Different businesses will emphasize different aspects of it, right? Some guys who are naturally amazing promoters will have the vast majority of their success as a result of their excellent promotion, right? Some guys who are amazing at product will have the vast majority of their success from excellent product, right? But if you have both, you will make not just twice as much money, but you'll make 10 times more money.
Yeah, I don't think you're saying don't do paid ads or don't market and just shut off.
No, you need to promote the product. You need to promote the product.
What you're saying is that by promoting it and having an amazing product, that's how you create the flywheel effect to really take things to a whole new stratosphere.
Yes.
So
like I could give everyone here the really simple answers that everyone probably wants, right? Hey guys, if you would like to go from $300,000 to $1 million a month, sell 3 times as many people, or make the clients 3 times more valuable. Those are really your 2 options. The question is, which of these is going to produce more profit? If you make them 3 times more valuable, you'll be infinitely more profitable than if you just try and triple down on your acquisition, because your cost of acquisition is going to go up with scale. So your margin will shrink as you get to that higher revenue level. But now you have all of these bodies you must support. And as Billy was voicing earlier, sometimes your ad account gets shut down. Sometimes you have a campaign that doesn't work out. And then all of a sudden you're on Schitt's Creek because you're walking this knife's edge. It's a far more sustainable way to grow by improving the product. And so this is me giving you like what I believe, having taken a lot of the steps in this direction, is the long-term answer. Like if I'm going into a business now, someone asked, like, if you were to start over again, I would focus all my time on making sure the product was exceptional. That's my actual answer. It's probably not what you want to hear, but that's my actual answer.
Let's see. What was the last? Oh, meaningful work. Yeah, Alex, just as a little side note, like at the beginning when I started the journey, like I was trying to get all this self-worth and happiness out of the business. And that's like extremely dangerous, because as soon as the business sucks, then you feel like shit about yourself. And inevitably the business is going to go through ups and downs. So I've come to realize that work can be meaningful, but it's but it's more something necessary that you do. So anyways.
So I think, So to roundabout answer the question, I think that if you can get to a position, this is just me sharing my 2 cents. You guys can take it or leave it. But for me, if you can view your work as art, and art exists for no outcome, but only because you believe it should exist. And so if your work satisfies those checklists, then you will not need this, how do I guarantee $1 million a month by 12 months? You won't need that, because there is no outcome that's needed, because you're doing it for the sake of doing it, right? Now, Jeff Bezos talks about this, but he's like, everything has overhead. Like the Chief Justice in the United States Supreme Court has probably had that as their dream for a long time. There's probably also aspects of being a Supreme Court justice that they do not like. And so I think in expecting there to be all good and no bad is silly. It's also silly because we're upset about the human condition. This is great for marketing. It's terrible for being a human. Are you hungry? Are you ever tired? Are you anxious sometimes? It's like the beginning of every ad, which really just means, are you a human being? Do you experience emotions? Of course you do. It's only because we expect that we shouldn't that we feel like there's a problem.
McDonald's is the answer.
Right, McDonald's is the answer, right? Yeah, it's only because we think that and again, for those of you who aren't, like Billy, right? You may, because you see other people achieving more, feel this deficiency where you're like, why am I not better? I suck, right? And here's the crazy part. Desire is great for achievement. It's shitty for feeling good. But I think there's a balance. And so I think when you extend the time horizon, you decrease the pressure, you make better decisions. Because the unreasonable question, or the so clear it would be unreasonable that it doesn't happen is, or the question that I would want to answer if I were you is, how do I make the product so good that every time I sign someone up, they stay and bring a friend? What do I need to do for that to happen? Once I solve that problem, all of the strategies will work, and it will be inevitable that I will get to $1 million a month. Whereas the other guy might hit his million and never hit $1 million a month until he changes the way he does business. But yes, to everyone, sure, you can 20x your ad spend and get 20 times the sales team if you want to do that. You're welcome to, but I wouldn't recommend it.
That has overhead too, though.
It does, for sure. Emotional overhead as well.
This is a great follow-up question that Chris asked. What do you replace desire with?
I don't think you should replace desire with anything. I think you should just pick the things that you desire carefully, because I mean, I like Naval Ravikant's quote, which is, desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want. And so it's like, when I'm writing a contract, I'm signing it in blood that I'm going to be unhappy until I get this thing. So it's like, we should be careful about what we want to sign that contract for. Again, this is why, like, if I can extend the time horizon, then I don't create the expectation. And if I can make my work into play and make it into art, then all of a sudden, like, I have no expectation of the work.
What's it? This is Naval.
Oh, well, that one quote was his. Yeah.
It's a powerful quote. I'm going to go look it up later.
Yeah. Which I actually heard that he got from a blog that ended up getting deleted. Now he takes credit for it. But anyways, the point is that I heard it from him.
Doesn't matter. It is what it is. We can give you credit, Alex.
It's all good. It's Naval's.
Let's see. Kara asked a really good question earlier. I can't find it because it was so far up, but I'm going to ask it a little bit differently. This is like, what is a tactical trend or opportunity or technology that you feel most people aren't taking advantage of that they should, that is not improving the product? So let's give something that is definitely shiny. Like, what is like a technology, or like I know you just got on TikTok, like what is something like that you're like what's something that's like, this is an opportunity that most people aren't hopping on, that you feel like will take over or is starting to take over to grow our business?
I mean, if you're watching, I mean, not that everyone here watches what I'm doing, but I mean, I just got on TikTok like 2 days ago. And we started YouTube probably 6 or 7 months ago, like more seriously. Actually, it's probably very end of last year, beginning of this year. I think that those platforms are very good if you have something to say. I think there's a lot of attention on there, but there's that caveat is big, comma, if you have something to say. And I think that a lot of people shouldn't really say anything.
And it takes a lot of time.
It takes a ton of time, a lot of attention. And I remember when I started Gym Launch, I used to tell all the gym owners in our community, I was like, stop fucking making content. I was like, just run ads, right? Just run ads. And the reason isn't because I don't believe in organic content. I just believe that as an overarching strategy to recommend to somebody, 95% of people aren't good enough for a variety of reasons. They might not have accomplished what is worthwhile to accomplish. They might not be able to communicate in a way. They might not be entertaining. They might not be attractive enough or interesting enough, whatever it is. There's a lot of things I think that have to go together in order for it to become a worthwhile activity. And then even if it is a worthwhile activity for you, it will still take a year, 2 years, 3 years for it to really start paying dividends. And so for everybody who's got rent this month, you know, I think there's a balance between investment and consumption. Right now, I'm at a point where I can go hardcore into investment. I can give the book away for $1. I can make the courses free, because for me, it's the long game of like, I'd like to have entrepreneurs who are doing 5 million a year or more come to me in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And I think that it'll probably be a really good business. But I'm not in a rush. And I think people will ask me once we do $1 billion a year in portfolio revenue, like, how did you do it? And I'll be like, I don't know. We just figured it would be reasonable that if I invested in a lot of companies that were growing and had good executors, that we would make money. It seems reasonable.
So right? What's the shiny object, Alex?
I don't have a shiny object.
No? Oh man.
I don't like.
I thought you had all the answers.
Maybe
Death,
that is the answer.
Happiness.
Most of the stuff, like, I'm gonna give you guys a real talk. All right. So the companies that we have in our portfolio right now, the smallest one is $8 million a year. All right. So I don't know where everyone here is at, but just for context, the vast majority of the conversations I have with the CEOs and the founders of those companies is me telling them to stop doing shit and keep doing the thing they're doing and get better. Marketing is about different. Business is about better. Business is about boring. Repeat successful actions, right? That is the thing. And most people don't want to do that because it is hard. It is so much easier to hop into a new niche. So you can have that short-term ego boost feeling of adrenaline, of something new and exciting, but that's because you lack the character trait of persistence and perseverance and focus and patience. And so that always becomes the limiter. And so it's like, I have to keep hitting on that. And what's funny is that speed feels slow when it's focused. So there was a company that I took on that was doing they had two companies. They're doing 1.6 and 500,000. All right, between the two companies. I told them to shut down the 500,000 one. And then we went all in on the 1.6 million one. 12 months later, they just had their first $210,000 week. So they just had an 8-figure run rate last week. It's 14 months. All right. The entire time when we get on the phone, he's like, hey man, I know this should be happening faster. I know this should be happening faster. And he went from basically zero to $1 million a month in that period of time, because it feels slow when it's focused. Because he's like, dude, this is like really straightforward. I'm like, yeah, but most people fuck it up. Most people are like, hey, I started making $1 million. I should do this other thing now too. It's like, or you should do more of that thing. And so I think that if I'm being really real, I think most people don't know what the problem is that they're trying to solve. So like all of us have the same time and we have access to the same resources of information and internet, right? Everybody here has the same resources. So if one person is growing faster than someone else, it means that they're solving problems at a faster rate. And it might not mean because they're working harder, it just means that they're identifying the problems faster. And most of speed comes from minimizing mistakes more than maximizing returns, which is why the wealthiest investors in the world are always mitigating downside risk. First rules of making money, don't lose money, right? First rules of business momentum, don't fucking make mistakes. Don't do new shit, right? You want to do new stuff, obviously, but you get my point here, right? Is that it's the shiny object that will kill you. And it's hard because that's the character trait that got us into business. And then as soon as it gets us into business, we have to unlearn it. How do I see mistakes ahead of time? I think it comes from pattern recognition. I think that my single greatest wish in the world.
For a while.
Pattern recognition, exactly. It's like I've seen this before.
When did you start your first business?
It was a decade ago. Yeah. And just for everybody's context here. So I don't know how long you guys have been in business, but like you guys are all probably ahead of where I was at whatever time duration you're in. All right. So like I didn't really start making what I would consider like real money until I was 5 years into business. And like I basically almost made nothing for the first 5 years. So I don't know how many years of business you are in right now, but like if you're, at half a decade, then it's like, all right, now you can start making some money. But like I didn't take home more than 50 or 60 grand for 4 or 5 years. So I think you spot it by trying to, like, it's the hardest thing in the world is discernment, right? It's the one wish that I ever have is that I just want to be wise. I want to make good decisions. And I think that a lot of wisdom is seeing what people can't see. And so it's like, all right, we have this problem. And then I try and think like, what questions am I not asking? And so if there's a bottleneck, because the simple answer for everything, right? If you guys want to chunk up knowledge, right? There's 2 ways to grow a business. You get more clients, you make them worth more. That's it. That's all there is. If you want to get more clients, there's 6 ways to get customers, which I talked about earlier, right? Earned, owned, paid, manual, affiliates, referrals. Pick one, right? Get really good at it. If you want to increase the lifetime gross profit per customer, you can increase the price, you can decrease the cost, you can get them to buy more times, you can get more upsells, you can get more cross sells, or you can have downsells. Those are the 6 ways you increase lifetime gross profit. And so if I'm looking at this as a grid, and this is literally what we do at every quarterly meeting with our company, is I'm like, okay, how am I going to increase the number of customers we have? And how am I going to make them worth more? And we pick one priority for each of those goals. And sometimes we don't pick any for the back goals or any for the front goals. We just want to focus on one side. And if you saw the goals that we have for our companies, you would laugh because they're hilariously simple. It's like, all right, well, we averaged 20 new customers from paid ads a week on that channel. Let's see if we can average 23 a week for next quarter. It's a 15% bump. Do we think that's reasonable? What do we need to get a 15% bump? All right, well, we can increase our ad spend in these ways. We can do this new platform, or we can do X, Y, and Z. And let's say I think X, Y, and Z has the highest likelihood of actually being right. And so I think that one of the things that you also start to develop is I think when we're starting out, we have this illusion that everything we do is going to work and that this thing is going to be the savior. This thing is going to be the silver bullet. When I think so much now, I'm so much more grounded in reality of like, that could work. But would I bet that it's going to work? Would I bet my life that it's going to? I probably wouldn't bet my life on it. So I try and just go with sure bets. It's like, I'd rather take the 15% bump on something that I already know than think of some home run. And I feel like I see the new guys, it's just like lottery tickets with poor people. It's like they always buy the lottery tickets. They think this is their way out. When in reality, if they just dollar cost average the S&P, they'll guarantee that they're going to get there eventually.
Yeah, Alex, like I said, if you're interested in coming once a week, feel free, just as an open invitation, my friend. If you ever want to, if you ever feel like you just need to let something out, we can be there to support you. All right, and then I have a question that I'll text you later, but let's see. These are just some.
Are you guys digging this? I know
Dude, guys, if you're not taking notes,
this so heavily. This is so
guys. If you're not taking notes, like what would your client experience have to look like for you to only grow through referrals is the only way to grow? How do we keep more customers and make them more valuable? How do we get 3x more customers and make them 3x more valuable? Like, guys, if you're not taking notes, like these are just a few of mine. Like, you're missing out big time.
So I'll say this again for you guys, and this will be the subject of book 6 of the book series, but increasing lifetime gross profit, right? I said 6 ways and I said them fast. So I'll say it again for you so you can make sure you write it down. Way number 1 is you increase your price. Number 1. Number 2, you decrease your costs of direct fulfillment. Number 3, you get them to buy more times, which within the context of a recurring business is decreasing churn. Number 4, you increase upsells, which is buying more of the same thing. So if I have a small Coke versus a large Coke, that is an upsell. If I sell fries with my Coke, that is a cross sell, which is number 5. That is a cross sell. If I sell an additional service, if you're selling lead working in additional to lead gen, that is a cross sell. If I get you to double your ad spend so that we can get you more customers, that is an upsell. It's more of the same versus different. All right. And the reason we delineate these things is that if we are precise with our words and our thinking, if we're precise with our words, we'll be precise with our thinking. And you have to be precise with your thinking. Otherwise, you will have vagaries and your clients and your employees will not understand you when you want to execute. And the final way is figuring out some sort of downsell process so that you can still maximize no's into yeses. All right. In order of importance, I would say cost and price are number 1 and number 2. And number 3 with increasing churn. The left side, the first 3 are more important than the back 3. But they're still all important.
Tell us about book 6.
Wait, there's 5 or 6, Alex?
There's gonna be 10 books.
No, I meant
So
the 5. Was it 5
There's
strategies?
6. There's 6.
Increasing price.
So upsells, cross-sells, downsells. Upsells, cross-sells, downsells are the back 3. And then you've got increased price, decreased cost, and you get people to buy more times.
Cross-sells, missed that one. Got it. I want to ask, let's see.
So when you're looking at your business while he's thinking about the question, if I'm looking, like I'm giving you lenses that we make decisions with, because ultimately if I can give you the decision-making frame, then you can make the decisions for yourself, because we wouldn't be able to hop on with every single person and make the decision for you. But if you have the framework, you can apply it. So if you are looking at your business and you're doing, okay, I'm going to give you a math equation that I use more than everything in my entire life, all right, which is what I did with Billy. I look at sales velocity times lifetime value. That will give my extrapolated hypothesis max. All right. So what that means is, let's say, so he said he was doing 8, right? 8 sales a month. All right. That's what his average is. And you said that's what you did last month. So what I would probably do is I would say, give me the last 6 months and average it out, because that might have been last month, but what's the average? Maybe it's 5, whatever. But then you get reality. All right. Not your best month, not what you emotionally target in your brain, but what real is, right? So I have my number of sales, and then I multiply that by my lifetime values. That's lifetime revenue. All right. Not lifetime gross profit, which is what I was talking about earlier, but lifetime revenue. All right. And so for them, and the way that everybody here know how to get lifetime revenue on a customer, it's price divided by churn. So you use $2,500 a month divided by 6%. That's how you do it. That's the lifetime gross profit, right? Now, Billy, I don't think that's accurate, because if it were accurate, then it mean that you guys would be growing like crazy. So I think that the eight velocity might be incorrect, right? Because if you're like slowly growing itty bitty, then it might be closer to 5 new sales a month, right? Because what happens is you'll approach equilibrium. It's an asymptote. You approach equilibrium. And so what I do with the business is I'm going to look and I'm going to say, okay, what's the price? What's the churn? That's the lifetime gross profit. My sales velocity averaged over the last 6 months is going to be 5 sales times lifetime value, right? Boom. Whatever that number is, 8 times, let's say 10 grand, 80 grand is where this business is going to cap. Now, if I'm doing 50K, then I'm like, okay, if I don't do anything, I'm going to continue to grow to 80. Now, on the flip side, if I do that math based on my last month and I'm doing 100K and it says 80K, it means I'm going to shrink because I need to solve a problem, right? And so the idea is, how can I play with these numbers so I can project out where I'm going to be? So if I want to triple it, then I have my equation. I have my price, I have my churn, and I have my volume. And then you can play with those and figure out which of these things do I feel like is more reasonable that I can change that will get us to where I'm trying to go. And so what I'm trying to, and then once you have which one of these dials you want to fix, then you just make what's a reasonable expectation that I think we can do, that if I had to bet my life on it, I think we could hit it. And if you make these 10% bumps, 15% bumps every quarter, they add up very, very big, very fast. But they feel slow and boring on the inside.
Jasmine, real quick, do you know if we're opening it up to all Agency Lab right now?
Yeah, I'm going to drop the link right now. So they'll be hopping in.
Cool. Alex, if it's okay with you, I'm going to get them to buy the book again.
It's fine.
All right. Figured we'd add some value.
Thanks, man.
Guys, can I hear some takeaways from 3 people? 3 takeaways, or 1 takeaway from 3 different people.
Need to do better with delivering a great product.
Who else?
Increasing the value of customers is something we all could focus a lot more on, rather than just getting more customers. We're always so obsessed with more, getting more customers. And that's how we got out of the hump we were in last year, increasing the value of our customers. And the cross sells is such a great way to do that. And so many different things. It's so many takeaways. I have so many questions and so many things to say based on everything you just said. And
Alex, you can offer him 50 grand. He's going to say no anyways, if you want coaching. So you're pretty, you got his YouTube channel.
Can I, Jeremy, let me tell you a story, because I think what you said was really important. So back when I did consulting days a while ago, I've only done like 6. So of one of those 6, I had an entrepreneur who came in. He was in the exact same space as me. So for those of you who are concerned about competition, I literally coached somebody who was in the same space. All right. And when we put his numbers on the board, he was selling the exact same number of units as we were per month. And he was doing $300,000 a month, and we were doing 4.2 million a month. Everyone's focused on the wrong shit. If you improve the back end, the front end's easy. Because if you make $100,000 on every customer, who gives a shit what the cost of acquisition is? And I'll tell you what, the cost of acquisition between most of you guys is about the same. If you average it out, because we own Allen, the software, so I see everyone's numbers. Most small businesses are required between 1 and 3K. That's just in terms of ad spend, right? So that 1 to 3K range, if that makes a massive difference in the business, then you got to change the business. It's not the marketing. Sorry, go ahead. I know you were doing takeaways.
I have a question for you. Just a quick question. So are you using your own team to create and publish your books, or are you working with like a firm or like a company?
I wrote the book.
Yeah, but are you hiring your own editors and designers, and are you just putting it on KDP yourself, or what are you using?
I own a chunk of a publishing business, and so I was able to just use resources within that business.
Okay, very cool. I asked because I have a publishing. My agency helps people write their books. I've got a team of editors and designers, and then our cross sells are like the video books and audio books, and PR and the marketing and all this stuff. So
guys, we have We have the full Agency Lab community joining live right now. Guys, we had the Rise Mastermind community first. That was awesome. Super excited now to have everyone on here. See some faces. Gavin, see Dante. What's up, Dante? Hope you're doing well. Steven, Freddie, Grant. What's up, guys? So we've got about 30 minutes with Alex. First things first, though, I'm going to do something fun. So, I mean, maybe it'll be fun. Maybe it won't be for you, but it'll be fun for me. I need you guys to go on Amazon right now and purchase the 99 cent. It's $1, guys. It's not even $1. It's 99 cents. Go purchase Alex's book as a thank you for him hopping on here and taking the time to speak with us today. It's 99 cents. It's called $100 Million Offers. It's the purple book. I just bought the hardcover earlier today. I already had the Kindle version. If you already have it, drop a 1. If you don't have it, take a second, go grab it. You're going to absolutely love that book.
Hey, Joel, can I hop in real quick?
Yeah,
so
please.
Now that everybody's here, I can give you guys a little bit of context because I don't think you asked the question, but I figure I'll tell everybody who's new here. So for those of you guys who don't know us, we own acquisition.com. Right now, our portfolio company is about 1.6 million a week, which is why I don't accept the 50K days. And if you followed any of our stuff, like I really yearn for trying to do things that I derive joy from. And so I enjoy writing and I enjoy drawing pictures around frameworks for thinking. And I do that because I enjoy doing it for my own business. And I would like to share that with as many people as I can. And so buying the book is awesome and I super appreciate it. What would be more meaningful for me is if you could leave a review, that would be helpful. And I'll tell you the reason why is because I think that the acquisition.com thesis, or why I started the company or the portfolio of companies, is that I think that the education system in America is very fragmented, or really around the world, right? It's failed most of us. I don't know if you guys went to college. I did. And I think that I did not get my money's worth. And I think the reason that the entire guru space as a whole has exploded is because the demand for skills to feed ourselves, despite what the media will tell us, many of us want to work. People want to have skills. People want to provide value. And there is a scarcity of people who can provide that value. And so my goal is to help as many people as I can, in donating my money, but more importantly or more valuably, donate the skills, beliefs, and traits that I've acquired over my trajectory that have helped me. And candidly, the money will only solve money problems, and then you'll still be left with problems that money can't solve. But at the very least, I think it gives most people space, and I think it gives a lot of people meaning to be able to provide value. And so for me, it would be very meaningful if you help me with that mission. And so everything that I have in acquisition.com is free, or $1. Actually, I think I'm going to be able to publish the book on my site for free, so it will be free soon. But Amazon doesn't let me do it for free, so I have to do it 99 cents.
And Alex, just to like throw this in there, the reason I ask people to buy it first, because I believe you have to do that to be able to.
Oh yeah, you have to. I was just saying, just in doing that, I can end up reaching a lot more people. But with the book, there's also a course that comes with the checklist and downloads. And my plan is to release 10 books with the courses. Books 2 and 3 are already written. And so the courses have been wireframed, and I'll be releasing those on a regular cadence. And so this is the first of those books because it seemed to me to be the problem that most businesses suffer from, is that they're not actually selling something that people want. And so despite most of us being in the marketing space at large, I have not found many books in this space on product. And so I use the word offer, but offer is one of those interesting things that is the bridge between the prospect and being a client. And it kind of occupies half its ass is sitting on the seat of marketing. The other half of its ass is sitting on the seat of fulfillment. And so it's kind of bridges that gap. So most people, if you simply improve the product, will get more leads. They will make more sales at higher prices simply by improving that one thing. And I think it was the greatest lever. It's the first thing that someone has to fix. And so when I started writing the books, I actually wrote the third book first, the second book second, and the first book third. because in each time I wrote it, I was like, ah, shit, they actually need this first. And then I wrote that one. I was like, actually, they need to have the offer right. If they don't have that, then they can't do leads. And if they can't get leads, then they can't do money models. They can't do money models, I don't need to talk about sales. They can't do sales, I can't talk about sales teams, right? And so that's the first 5 books, if you guys are curious. And so anyways, I just want to say thank you, Joel, for having me. For everybody who's new, for everybody who's not new, thanks for listening to me again.
Guys, for those of you guys that were with us for the first half, we were doing rapid fire. Well, not rapid fire, but just Q&A with Alex. And Alex, would you be cool with us just continuing with some Q&A for the last 20 or 30 minutes?
For sure.
All right, let's do it. Talking about offers, talking about product. Someone asked a little bit ago, how would you improve the product aside from just making the client more money? I believe George asked this, and I think more so it's like, how do you improve the perceived value? Because we all have the client who we made a lot of money and then they quit.
Right. Totally. So I mean, this is the core of the book. All right. So most people talk about value. I haven't seen value defined anywhere, which is why it bothered me. And so inside the book, I talk about what I believe to be the value equation. So the value equation has 4 pieces to it, and it's a fraction. All right. So if you can imagine my screen being drawn in the middle, or if you have your notes, draw a line in the middle. On the top side of the equation, you have 2 factors. The first is the dream outcome. All right. So that is the thing that they find desirable. And what's important is that the thing that you think they find desirable may not actually be the thing they find desirable. And that's what happens when you start learning more about your prospects. You might think it's making more money, but they might not want to trade some of the other variables for it. But just as a simple thought experiment, if I had to say, hey, I'm going to make you $1 million versus I'm going to make you more handsome, most men in general get more status from wealth. And so for them, they would most of the time perceive making money as more valuable, which is why most products around making money are by and large priced at a higher price. Right. And so from a value perspective, that is the first component of value, which is what is the outcome we are delivering? All right. The dream outcome. The second part of this is now the rest of these are assuming that 2 products are solving the same problem. So if you and somebody else in your space are both helping someone get more customers, make more money, et cetera, right? And as a fine line of nuance here, you might have made the customer money that you were talking about, but most agencies don't even sell how to make money. They sell leads, or they sell shows, or they sell appointments, but they don't sell how to make more money. Interesting. So there's a lot of other things that you would do for someone if you wanted to actually truly make sure they made more money. There's a lot more problems that we would solve because each of these problems that we solve in the beginning just creates more problems. And so we have to solve the entire cycle in order for them to get more value. So number 1 is dream outcome. Number 2 is perceived likelihood of achievement. All right. So here's an example to illustrate this concept of 2 things that are the same deliverable, where one is more valuable than the other. So let's say you're about to get surgery. All right, let's say you want to get some plastic surgery. Your wife wants to get plastic surgery. And you've got 2 surgeons you're choosing from. Surgeon 1 is right out of medical school. This is the first surgery they're ever going to do. Surgeon 2, this is their 10,000th surgery of this exact same surgery. Which of them would you send your wife to or a spouse to? Right? The one that's done 10,000. Which of them would you pay more for? The 10,000. In fact, you'd probably ask this guy to pay you to do the surgery, right? And so in a very real way, the perceived likelihood of achievement between 2 identical offers confers value to the product. Does that make sense? So the first 2 parts of the value equation are what is the thing we are selling? What is the outcome we are delivering? And then what is the perceived likelihood that when they buy, the prospect believes they're actually going to achieve it? And so what most new marketers do is they only focus on those first 2 parts of the equations, which is bigger and bigger promises and claims, more and more testimonials, bigger promises, testimonials, right? That's what new marketing looks like. The further along in my entrepreneurial career I've gone, the more I focus on the bottom half of the equation. These are the detractors of value. These are the things that take away. The third, so for bottom, this is the third component, is time delay. So between when I buy and when I'm delivered the experience that I was promised. So the easiest thing to do in a marketplace, if you want to be more valuable, is take the amount of time it takes someone else to achieve it and cut it in half. So when you asked, are there other components that you did besides making money? Absolutely, there are other components of value, right? And so getting the speed for them So a weight loss example would be like if you were to click a button and then immediately look down at your abs and have a six-pack, imagine how valuable that product would be. Exceptionally valuable. And it's just an extreme example of what speed looks like. The reason Amazon continues to gain market share is that even though it is an e-commerce platform, they continue to make it faster and faster and faster and faster, and in so doing, confer more value to the end client, even though the thing they are delivering is identical. That is how much people value their time. And so if in a marketing agency example, I'll give you a simple one. If you, compared to a guy down the street, let's say the guy down the street says, all right, let's get you signed up, right? And then it's going to take us 14 days to get you spun up. And it'll take you another 14 days to start making your first sales and start generating cash flow. And you'll probably be ROI positive at day 60, right? Normal. Now, if you looked at that and said, imagine this, as soon as the person's credit card gets run, their phone rings with a prospect that's hot within seconds. How amazingly more valuable would that be, even though it is the exact same thing? The only component that changed was time. And so we can make our products and services more valuable by shrinking the time between when they buy and when they get. The fourth and last component is effort and sacrifice. Our goal is to decrease these, obviously, but to define these for you, effort and sacrifice are two sides of the same coin. Effort is things that your customer must now do that they were not doing before starting with you that they do not want to do. So these are things that they're going to start doing that they didn't do before that are not enjoyable. So for all of a sudden, you have to have them to start calling leads. That is a cost. That is effort. On the flip side, sacrifice is things that they weren't doing before that they now must, sorry, other way around, that they were doing before that they now must give up. So for example, they might love to have their Friday afternoons off, but now you're telling them that they have to have these times open, right? So that is a sacrifice. And so our goal with the products and services that we deliver is to maximize the dream outcome, maximize the perceived likelihood that they're going to achieve it when they buy from us, minimize the time delay, and minimize the effort and sacrifice. So in theory, the person would click purchase from you and immediately basically get money. And so our job as entrepreneurs is to lubricate that path for them and do as much of that work in advance. And the harder part is the bottom side of the equation. It also happens to be where the competitive moat is best built. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can show testimonials. And it's saturated in this space. But few people can deliver results quickly and effortlessly to the client. And that comes from operational skill, know-how, and perceiving the problems in advance and solving them in advance in a multitude of ways. And solving them, and this is a key point, in the way that your prospects would like them to be solved. So I'll tell you a story to drive this point home. When I was in the gym space and I had my own gyms, actually this was after we had the gyms, but this is a project that we did. We had a whole bunch of people. We were trying to create a downsell, right? So increase the more no's into yeses. So take sawdust and still make money from the people who are otherwise saying no. And so this is what we did. When someone would say no to buying some sort of weight loss package, we'd say, hey, Susie, I love that you came in here today. I love that you had the courage to take the first step. It's the hardest part. And so I want to reward you for that. Even if you don't work with us, we still want to give you value. So if you're all right with that, I still want to give you a meal plan, still want to do nutrition consultation. And so hopefully you can start losing weight on your own. And if you do, and you like it, maybe you'll come back to us in the future. And even if you don't, maybe at least you'll say nice things about us. Fair enough? They'll say, sure. And they would come back the next day for a nutrition consultation. Our average ticket in supplement sales for people who said no to service and then came back was 50% higher than people who had already bought services. So our average ticket was $200 and something on people who had already bought, and it was 300 plus, mid threes, on people who had not bought services. And so it is not that these people did not want to buy weight loss, the dream outcome. They wanted to buy it in a way that had less effort and sacrifice and perceived less time delay. They didn't think they were going to make it to the gym on some level, but they figured they could take the shake. And so it's not that the prospect didn't want the problem to be solved. They didn't want it solved in the way we were solving it. So that's the value equation. And so if you're thinking about your own services that you're delivering, I think through those components and say, like, how can I maximize and minimize each of these so I can ultimately provide more value to the marketplace?
Alex, let's shift to a more philosophical question. I know, because no, I feel like for the past hour we did philosophy, business, and it's been a really good balance, and it kind of just all merges together. Is there anything you regret, Alex? And follow up, is there anything you fear that you'll regret?
It's difficult because if I could go back in time with all the lessons that I have, then yes, I would totally play things differently. But if I needed to make the mistake in order to get the lesson, then no. So like I don't regret where I am because I think the lessons were requisites of being here. So I have no regrets in that sense. Were the mistakes that I made that if I were presented with the same situation again, I like that identical situation at this point, would I respond differently? Absolutely.
Do you feel like you've obviously accomplished a lot. You've lived life fully from what I guess from an outsider's perspective. Is there anything you feel like you haven't done? That you need to experience?
Not really. I mean, Layla, I mean, you know, I think you have seasons of reaping and sowing, you know, and I think as long as you enjoy both aspects of the season and expect, so it's kind of like the flip side of good and bad, right? Which is one of the reasons I don't believe in heaven, and I hope this isn't offensive to anyone, but it's like hedonistic adaptation would force us that if we have something that's very good for a long time, we would get used to it, right? And so then it's no longer good, it's just normal. And so like even bad things are requisites of good things. So if you want good things to happen, you want ups, you must by definition have downs. And so if both of them are required for each other's existence, then we stop conferring the value of good or bad to the quote good or bad things. They are just things. And I think that the more experienced business owners that I see, what I can tell you is a common trait that I've at least witnessed in all the guys that I know that are worth 500 billion, a billion plus, is that they're unbelievably steady-handed. They're very calm. They have very long lag times between stimulus and response. So someone could blow up in their office and they're like, well, that didn't go as expected. They're not reactive. And so I think that a lot of, especially, you know, earlier on in the entrepreneurial journey for many of us, it's like we have to take tons of emotion to make these actions to quit our jobs or quit the stability or go out on our own. And it's a character trait that we have. And then we have to immediately unlearn those traits that made us entrepreneurs. And like, as a funny example for this, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially as the business grows, don't want to become corporate, right? They don't want to have structure. I don't want to have meetings, right? The reason every Fortune 500 company in the US has an HR department, the reason every one of those companies has labels and titles that everyone gets is because those things matter to humans. And so we try and leave that space to start our own thing. And then once you scale enough, you realize that you go back to exactly where you started because it was a requisite of getting there. But at least this time you got to make the choice to come to the conclusion on your own.
I think that's pretty powerful. Guys, what are some questions you guys have? I see a few below. Let me see. Let's see what else I want to ask. We had so many good ones.
I was so much more reactive in the early years. You know, client fires, angry texts from clients, shit hitting fans. Yeah.
Let me ask one on behalf of everyone that I get a lot. And this is going to be different than probably what most people are expecting, but I get the question all the time, which is, you know, what should I start investing in? What should I start investing my money in? Right. And I'm pretty outspoken about this. And I think there's a difference between entrepreneurs and employees, right? So if you plan on having a career as an employee, then I think dollar cost averaging and living as low, you know, as cheaply as you possibly can has been a winning solution. It's a simple solution. For entrepreneurs, because we have more variable income and we can increase our income to a much higher degree based on our skills, our traits, and our beliefs, it's a prudent investment to invest in increasing your skills, traits, and beliefs. And so I have we still do consistently spend basically as much money as we possibly can on anything that will improve us as entrepreneurs. And so when someone's like, man, I could cost average in, you could now, but like, I never wanted to start investing money because in some way for me, beginning to invest money in like the stock market and stuff was me sort of relegating myself to saying, I don't think I'm going to make more money than I'm making now. And so I'm just telling you how I did it, which may not be for everybody. And this is not financial advice. Listen to your own financial advisors. But for me, I consistently spent pretty much every dollar I had on mentors, coaching, and courses and books until I had more money than I knew what to do with. And if you still have courses and coaches and mentorships that you wish you could have and you cannot afford, then that's what I would be saving up for. Because those things in and of themselves, one of them or two of them might not be the thing, but a lot of specified or specific knowledge, trench knowledge, nuanced knowledge comes from connecting disparate things together. And that's where you create value. And so I like to liken this to a bridge, but let's say on this side of the screen, we've got where you are. And on this side, you've got the outcome that you want, which might be more dollars, right? Each aspect of this bridge is these little planks, right, are skills that are required. And a lot of times someone will read a book or they'll take a course, they'll go to a seminar, and immediately they won't make more money. And they're like, what a failure. But the problem is that it's binary thinking. It's I was successful or I was not successful, rather than am I closer to success now than I was before I started. And I think that if most of us can switch our thinking from binary to the continuum, which Billy, for what we were talking about earlier, if you're thinking about your goal of, I want to get to $1 million a month, it's not, am I at $1 million a month or not? And if I am not, I am a failure. It's, am I closer? Because if you are consistently getting closer, you will, at some point, it will be inevitable that you cross it. But it's only because we can remove the component of time and simply think about progress on a continuum. And so what happens a lot of times is that people don't understand or discern what the limitation is that they have on their business. So a lot of people even here, will continue to focus more on marketing or copywriting or whatever it is, or traffic buying. But that probably or might not be the weak link in the business. And in my opinion, most businesses function like cars, which is one of the cylinders more important than another? Or are cylinders more important than wheels? Well, you need both. And so just like you need marketing, just like you need sales, just like you need gasoline in the engine, you need all of the things to be successful, which is why it's so frustrating to be an entrepreneur, because you acquire a new skill and then somehow you put the cylinder in and it still doesn't work. But the car is more likely or closer to becoming a fully functioning car than it was before. And you could still use that continuum concept on, I'm now building another car that is a bigger car. So I built a bigger engine, but I still need bigger wheels and bigger axis, et cetera, because I have the engine of a V8 in the engine, but I still have the chassis of a Pinto, right? And so the process is this continuous pipeline that as soon as you even out every aspect of the pipeline, you then go back to the front and then jack it up again. And then it goes to get, and then each aspect of it has to be debottlenecked. And a lot of that comes from what I it's not my seg, but the theory of constraint, which I'm a big advocate of, which is systems will grow until the constraint. And if you simply remove the constraint, they will continue to grow until the next constraint. But most people solve problems that don't exist. And they put all their time solving the wrong problems. And so most people from the outside is simply prioritization from the inside. We only have a set amount of time, resources, and skills that we can allocate, human capital that we can put towards problems. Which of these problems is the biggest lever? And that's where the speed comes from. But in terms of the doingness of the business, people can only do so much. And so the businesses that move quickly are the ones that prioritize the right things to do and literally just ignore the wrong things. And I'll give you one small anecdote for this to drive this point home. We did not send emails until we hit 50 million in revenue. Was it wrong? I don't know. But it wasn't the priority at the time that I perceived as the biggest problem or the biggest lever or the constraint on the business. And so I didn't focus on it.
You mean email to your own list?
Yeah, we didn't even do follow-up emails. Someone opted in and applied, they never got an email.
How do you...
We only started emailing like 9 months ago.
To try to simplify it, for most people that are here, let's say between 0 to 100K a month, a little bit are farther, some are brand new. What would you say
Yeah.
are the right things to focus on and the wrong things to focus on from a higher level? Obviously, email is a very specific example.
Yeah.
How do you answer it from a higher level?
It's 1-1-1. You have to sell one product to one avatar on one channel. And that sounds so simple. It's so simple, most people don't do it. What's even simpler is to not do it. So I feel like I have the conversation a lot with newer entrepreneurs. Like, well, I'm starting this thing, and I kind of have, you know, we're dealing with chiropractors, but we're also dealing with physical therapists, and one of these is going to take. Just pick one. Both could work. They're both multi-billion-dollar industries. Just pick one. The problem is that you haven't picked, and because of that, you're never good enough because there's not enough you to go around to focus on solving the problems that truly matter. As a funny thought experiment, that's having two businesses. How many publicly traded CEOs do you know that are CEO of McDonald's and CEO of Coca-Cola? It's like, yeah, I'm managing both right now. I'm CEO of two different businesses.
Elon Musk.
It's fucking
That's
retarded.
like the only outlier ever. But anyways,
He's not the CEO. He's the founder. There's CEOs in each of those companies, right?
Hmm.
But even then, and that's the thing is that most people think, and the title doesn't matter. He might have his COO that's functioning as CEO. He's not the operator, right? Most people think that they are the owners of their business. That is true, but it's not the only thing you are. You're also VP of sales. You're also CMO. You're also CEO. You're also COO, right? You're also handling IT, right? And so what happens is you replace one of your 7 hats and then think, I'm good, but you still have 6 other hats. And so you have to replace every single hat you have, and making decisions as an executive is also a hat. It's arguably the most important hat. And that's why you can't have 2 of those hats for each company, which is why most people who are entrepreneurs who are newer never fucking make money until they have to eliminate parts that are taking their attention, which are usually side hustles, extra gigs, the thing that they have to burn the boats on so they can go all in on the main thing, because your attention can't be split. You delegate in reverse order of income, Victor.
Last question, and then I want to respect your time. I know we're out of time. Where do you see the marketing agency space going over the next 10 years, over the next decade? Where do you see it going? Ooh, follow up. And how do you best position yourself given that shift?
Yeah, most markets are, so internet technology, hold on, let me say this right. Technology democratizes consumption and consolidates production, which means if you're the best in the world, you get to do it for everyone. And so if that's a paraphrasing of what Naval Ravikant said, which I like a lot. So right now, spaces are becoming increasingly fragmented. All right. So what once was a marketing agency for local businesses, now you've got, you know, a micro gym agency, and then you've got a big box gym agency, then you've got bar gym agency, and then you've got, and so the idea is that we have to micro niche down so that you can envelope the customer in the more complete solution, right? And so I think that the direction for marketing agencies, or at least if you want to win the marketing agency space, is going to be the one who provides the most value and solves the most problems, which ends up becoming half consultant, half agency, because the problem that most of these guys have is not their lead gen, it's because their businesses suck, right? And so we actually have to take full responsibility for the outcome of our customers. And the only way to do that is to be very specific on what types of customers we serve so that we can be very specific in our solutions. The more broad the customers we serve, the less specific we can be in our solutions. And in so doing, the less value we provide, which means there's room for someone else to exploit us and move in and be more specific and then take that piece of the market and own it. So I'll give you an example. It's taken 5 years for Gym Launch to go from micro gyms to now we have a second product line, which is big box gyms. It's taken 5 years.
I love that. Seems like the agencies that can be more of a hybrid and solve more problems, and lead gen is just one component, will ultimately win.
It's value. That's all it is. Leads is not that valuable. Leads are a commodity.
Alex, we do want to be respectful of your time. So last thing, is there any other final words you want to share? Any plugs? I try to get as many people to buy the book, but anything you want to share, you know, open floor.
It's fine. I think the vast majority of everyone on here would be best served if you did two things. One is if you extended your time horizon far past this month or this year. And if you just thought, how can I provide so much more value to my customer? And the question that I asked, I think, in the first half that I don't think the people who are newer got to hear, but I will say it again, is that if the marketing gods prevented you from acquiring new customers, and the only customers you had were your existing customer roster, in order to gain new customers, what would the experience have to be like for your existing customers so that the only way that you got new customers was through them via referral? How different would your client experience need to look like? What outcomes would they need to have? On what time frame? How much effort and sacrifice would you need to take off of their plate so that they could be successful? And so I think that most people think they need to do something different, when the strategy of a marketing agency is very simple. You get clients and you keep them a long time. And if you do that, you'll make money. The problem is making that happen is hard, but some people question the original strategy. The reality is that most people are not that good. If you are not making the amount of money that you would like to make, is because you are not good enough. Charlie Munger said, to have what you want, deserve what you want. And the marketplace will tell you what you deserve. So right now, if you are stuck at something, it means that you lack a skill, a trait, or a character belief. Sorry, a skill, a trait, or belief. And so it's up to us, and maybe ask other people, maybe ask your customers, what would be better? How can I make this, how can I improve this for you? Every single customer complaint is an opportunity for you to solve more problems. And if you look at them as those opportunities, eventually those problems stop arising nearly as frequently. And then they become simply execution issues rather than fundamental deficiencies in the business that you are lacking. So if you want to grow, marketing is about different, but business is about better.
Damn. Alex, freaking appreciate you, man. I see you as the business, not only as a mentor, but as a business and life philosopher. And every time I talk to you, I just feel more expansive. So no, I mean that, man. I know you laugh, but I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Guys, let's just show Alex some love. Let's do a round of applause. Unmute yourself for 1 second.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Follow him on Instagram,
Thank you.
YouTube, buy the book. You know,
There's a
what you need to do.
YouTube channel too, if you guys like it. Yeah, there's a YouTube channel.
I'm gonna comment on all your videos now.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm not being an asshole. I just want to squeeze one little thing in. I would love to hear what you're doing to drive 1,000 book sales a day. Is that something you would be interested in telling us a little bit about?
It's
yes,
the product.
This will be a perfect finish. It's fine. It's a perfect finish to the point here. I have no upsells. I have no funnel. I have no paid advertising. The reason the book is selling 1,000 copies a day is because people are telling their friends about the book.
Word of mouth.
There's nothing else. There's literally nothing else. I promise you, I'm doing nothing else to drive book sales.
You know, it's funny because I asked Alex to do this. He didn't ask me to do this. Like to bring him on here to talk about the book. And I was like, yo, Alex, I'd love to help you. So.
No, I appreciate it. And I'll tell you what happened. So in the last, if this is interesting to you. So in the last 3 weeks, and I've been very quiet about what I've done for a long time. And I haven't been in the general business space, and I tend to be slower to make those moves. And I think I tend to sit in the opportunity vehicle that I'm in a little longer than most people. And I think it's served me well. So I'll give you an example to drive this point home, because I think it's important. So I had 1 gym, and then I had 2 gyms, and then I had 3 gyms, and then I had 4 gyms, and then I had 5 gyms, and then I had 6 gyms, and I opened them all at full capacity on day 1. And at the time, the people who were trying to coach gym owners either had 1 gym or 0 gyms, and had never had more than that. And so finally, when the demand for the amount of people who asked me to help them surpassed my reasonable ability to do so with still managing my gyms, I sold my gyms to start doing gym launch. Then I took almost 1.5 years flying around the country and doing gym turnarounds. So getting better at the craft. And I did that for almost 1.5 years. After that, we started to do the licensing model, which is, what we did. We still continue to do it, right? And after we did our first $1 million a month, and then 2 million a month, and then 4 million a month, people were like, hey, you should start general business coaching. We had our first $4 million a month, I think, in January of 2019. for context, a while ago. And still, I tend to sit with things a little longer because I think the depth of knowledge is important. I think that the devil's in the details. I think the expertise shows up in the nuances. And so I actually don't even remember the original question, but I think you asked about the book. And so what's happened since I wrote the book is like, I think that people felt like there was a level of expertise that was demonstrated in the book that was in excess or different than other people's stuff. And so that is why it was being shared. But every name that you have heard of in the marketing space reached out to me because 4 people told them about the book. So Garrett White reached out to me, Frank Kern reached out to me, Dave Woodward from ClickFunnels reached out to me, Russell reached out to me, Dan Henry reached out to me, Tanner Chichester reached out to me. All of those guys reached out to me because 10 other people had told them about the book, and they were like, you know what, man, I wasn't really going to read your book. And I read it, and fuck, man, I just emailed my whole list about it. Thanks. And so I think that a lot of us think it, like, who here has ever been to a restaurant and had a sandwich and been like, man, if I had a restaurant, my sandwiches would not be shitty like this? Anyone? I know that if I had a restaurant, they'd have fucking good sandwiches. It seems like a simple thing. But most people who are struggling as entrepreneurs serve shit food. And the only way they make money is that they charge people before they eat. And so I know that everybody who's probably 1 or 2 steps ahead of you is telling you, you just need to sell more. But I'm telling you, it's a very tiring existence to have to sell more. And this is just the perspective that time has given me, is that the only endeavors that I pursue now with a little bit more perspective are things that I know that when I sell them to somebody, they stay forever. And that is where I want to focus my time on. I want to focus on one-time inputs that have compounding returns. I want to spend more time on the book so that when it is good enough, it will continue to generate sales. And I don't need to run marketing campaigns. I don't need to have people who are constantly pushing it. It just runs on its own merit. And I think more businesses would be better served doing that. And I think it takes time to get there.
Wow, guys, let's give Alex one last round of applause. Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate you so much, man. Have an amazing day. And is there anything else we could do to support you?
Just leave a review if you think the book is good. It actually does help the book a lot. So that would be meaningful. And if you guys like this type of stuff, I make a bunch of YouTube videos, and I have nothing to sell
follow me on
you.
TikTok.
So
you know?
you can follow me on TikTok.
I want to see some dancing videos, Alex. It's just a matter of time.
I think they're just ripping it from YouTube, to be honest with you, but we'll see.
We'll see, man. I mean, you would stand out. So, all right. We'll talk soon. Peace out.